Mr. Jafarzadeh, thoughts on how the U.S. should respond?
Sure. I think for the United States to respond to the outcome of the elections, I think they need to fully understand, especially after 38 years, that we're not talking about different factions with different tendencies, as Elon was mentioning earlier. You're not talking about moderates versus radicals or any of those things. They're totally irrelevant. We're talking about gangs, different gangs of, I would compare them to mafia gangs, who have their own territories, their own interests, their own, especially economic interests. And they're fighting over those territories and interests and political influence, and it has nothing to do with the issues. And that's why it's not an accident that over the years, those who are called moderates act even worse than the ones who are called radicals. The number of terrorist activities outside of Iran actually rose under the so-called pragmatic Rafsanjani when he took over as the president in 1989. Under Rouhani, currently, the number of executions inside Iran has risen to about 3,000, higher than the same period under Ahmadinejad. And you know, the same way either internal or external behavior of the regime it remains really unchanged because it's not about that. It's about those factions. Keep in mind that a lot of these fightings deal directly with economic interests, like who owns and controls huge amount of resources. Let's say in Khorasan province, you know, I come from Mashhad, so I'm familiar with that province. There's a huge conglomerate called Astana Quds Razavi. We're talking about perhaps hundreds of billions of dollars of resources. They own hundreds of industries, agricultural resources, lands, and all of that under the name of the 8th Shiite Imam. That actually entity was controlled mostly by the other faction until Raisi was appointed as the head of the Astana Quds. And he started you know, using all of that resources to his favor. The Revolutionary Guards own much of the Iranian economy, and by that they control ports, factories, a lot of resources, construction companies. So when you have Rouhani at odds with the IRGC, it's not that he is against the IRGC's repressive policies or promoting terrorism or against the Quds force. He's against them because they dominate everything and they want their own share. He never opposed the policies of the IRGC in Syria, in Iraq, the Shiite militias there, or what they're doing in other parts of the world, or even domestically. Rather, you know, so I think it's a very, very important factor that needs to be understood by the policymakers, so that tomorrow, let's say Rouhani is re-elected or reselected as the new president, they wouldn't say, okay, this is better than Raisi because at least he's a little bit more, sounds a little bit more moderate. He was involved in the nuclear negotiations and all of that. Therefore, let's try to see if we ourselves can, you know, start a new round of negotiations or whatever with Rouhani, or if Raisi becomes the next president, as though you know, the sky is going to fall, there's going to be a major shift of policy. There's not going to be a major shift of policy. They will do the same things as they were doing in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, or continue to pursue their nuclear weapons program. And the nuclear negotiations did not start under Rouhani. It started under Ahmadinejad. It was the decision of the supreme leader under Ahmadinejad to do that because they were deeply in trouble. Mm-hmm. And you know, they wanted to, I heard an interview Dennis Strauss was doing yesterday with the Voice of America. He said in the first term of Obama administration, when the negotiations started and he was in the administration, the regime said, no way we will have negotiations unless all the sanctions are dropped. And then when the sanctions increased, eventually, thanks to the Congress, eventually the Iran regime, the same regime that would say you drop the sanctions and then we'll negotiate, after the increase of sanctions, they came to the negotiating